Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating explainer. We're taking a look at a classic piece of language learning material called Good versus Bad Manners, analyzing a slow English story. Now, you might be thinking, a slow English story? But trust me, as we'll see, using a simple character dichotomy is actually a total masterclass in teaching foundational vocabulary. So let's get right into it. Okay, let's dive into this by meeting the two total polar opposites at the heart of our story. First up, we've got Emma. She is the ultimate model of good manners, always jumping in to help out. And then there's Jake. Jake is our agent of chaos for today. He's constantly forgetting to be polite, completely ignoring the rules, you get the picture. By putting these two wildly contrasting figures right next to each other, the creators build this instant, super recognizable conflict. It perfectly sets the stage for the vocabulary lessons we're about to unpack. But before we get too deep into exactly how Emma and Jake behave, we kind of need to understand the world they're operating in. What exactly is a slow English story? Well, it's not just some random cartoon. It is a highly specialized narrative tool built specifically for A1 and A2 level beginners. The idea is simple. By deliberately slowing down the pacing of the English language, this format makes everyday vocabulary incredibly accessible. It gives your brain the time it actually needs to process the words, connect them to what's happening in the story, and nail the correct pronunciation without feeling totally overwhelmed. It's literally like linguistic training wheels. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how Emma's character serves as the absolute perfect vehicle for this lesson. I mean, look at her interactions. She's exchanging a book with a classmate, and her dialogue, words like please, thank you, sorry. That is the exact target vocabulary this material aims to teach. Emma is effectively modeling ideal everyday interactions. Every single time she uses this kind of positive reinforcement, she's handing beginner students a clear, contextual example of politeness. It's something they can take and use in their own real-life conversations right away. But hey, a hero is really only as good as their foil, right? And Jake is definitely that foil. He's got these terrible negative habits, interrupting people, flat out ignoring greetings, forgetting basic politeness, and just blowing past simple rules. If Emma shows us exactly what to do, Jake is a walking billboard for what happens when communication completely breaks down. Juxtaposing Emma's helpfulness with Jake's, honestly, absolute menace of a routine creates our core conflict. It proves to the learner that behavior has real social consequences. Suddenly, the vocabulary isn't just a boring list of words to memorize. It feels urgent and important. So, how do we test these two different approaches to the world? The creators brilliantly drop both characters into what we can think of as the proving ground. Basically, it's the journey from home through one really exciting school day. By framing the narrative around this totally relatable, everyday path, they ensure that both Emma and Jake run into the exact same situations. It is an environment packed to the brim with perfect scenarios for beginners to pick up foundational English. Let's move to and see how this builds across the timeline of a single day. In the morning, everything is focused on initial greetings. Then, as we hit midday, the language naturally shifts to classroom conversations and talking with peers. Finally, in the afternoon, it's all about understanding and following rules. This structured flow is absolutely fantastic for learners. Why? Because it categorizes the vocabulary chronologically, exactly how you'd experience a day yourself. It makes these new concepts so much stickier and easier to remember. Starting with that morning routine, the contrast between our two characters is just immediate. We've got Emma brightly greeting people to kick off her day, while Jake entirely ignores a simple good morning. And starting here is a really strategic choice. Greetings aren't just filler. They represent the absolute foundation of everyday English conversation. Actually, scratch that. If you're an A1 or A2 learner, the very first thing you have to master is how to acknowledge the people around you. Jake's refusal to do that instantly isolates him. It's a hugely powerful visual way of showing why a simple greeting matters so much. As we move into the midday classroom dynamics, the stakes get just a little bit higher. We see Emma cooperatively saying please and sorry, working nicely with her peers. Meanwhile, Jake is continuously interrupting everyone. This totally hits the nail on the head for this lesson. Emma's structured politeness builds communication up, while Jake's disruptive habits literally tear it down. It's this super subtle trick to teach learners that English isn't just about the words themselves, it's about the rhythm of a conversation, listening, waiting your turn, and working together. And all of this builds directly to the central narrative question of the whole story. Can Jake learn that good manners make life happier? Will he finally make the right choices? That right there is the hook. By getting us invested in Jake's potential redemption, the creators make sure the learner stays glued to the story right up to the very end. You aren't just sitting there waiting for the next vocabulary word. You are emotionally invested in a character arc. And this brilliantly illustrates the interactive learning goals of the story. The creators don't want you to just sit back and watch. They lay out 3 clear steps for you to participate. Number 1, listen carefully to the story. Number 2, practice speaking the phrases, shadowing the dialogue. And number 3, master everyday conversations. Jake's journey is practically a mirror for the viewer's journey. As Jake learns to adopt Emma's behavior to save his day, you're actively encouraged to practice those exact same simple English phrases out loud to upgrade your own skills. Ultimately, the whole shebang boils down to this single, overarching moral lesson pulled straight from the source material. Good manners make life happier. It is just a clean, perfectly memorable takeaway. And from a language perspective, it's a flawlessly constructed, simple A2 level sentence. It wraps up the entire plot with a nice little bow while reinforcing the totally positive outcome of using the correct vocabulary. But the source material doesn't just fade to black. It actually reaches out directly to the audience. So the crucial point is, I want to leave you with the exact same provocative question the creators ask their learners. What is the most important good manner you practice every day? Take a second to think about the everyday English conversations you have. Think about those little pleases and thank yous that give your day structure, just like Emma's. It is such a wonderful reminder that language is, at its core, all about how we connect with each other. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and definitely keep practicing those everyday conversations.